I present myself to you today as nothing more than a woman with ambitions and a lawyer with ideals, a mother with dreams of gender equity for her child, and an entrepreneur envisioning social transformation. And the one silent question still hangs in the air: who is Prachi Pratap? But we will come to that later. Before that, a very warm morning to everyone present here on this very sunny day. There are a series of instances and stories I would like to walk you through because it is my belief that over time we have forgotten that empowerment is not synonymous with women. It is synonymous with development because something I have failed to understand is that why do people feel so provoked when someone talks about empowering women? Is it because of the archaic gender roles deeply ingrained into our minds? When you think of the parent staying at home, taking care of the child, the first image that comes to your mind is a woman, the mother. Why is parenting not gender neutral? Why is it that mothers are the by default caretaker and then become working moms? When was the last time a man was asked, "Are you a working father?" Even more insolent is the fact that though mothers are naturally supposed to sacrifice their career for the good of the family, they don't have much say in deciding for their children according to the society. There is this very insightful case where a mother had given her last name to her daughter, but the father decided to contest it, even though the couple was divorced and mother had custody of the child. What do you think the judgment was? Well, the Honorable Court held that the father does not own the daughter to dictate that she should use only his surname. If the minor daughter is happy with her surname, what is the father's problem? The court said every child has a right to use his or her mother's surname if he or she wishes to do so. And there are many countries like Netherlands and Spain that allow the use of mother's surname for their children. Pablo Ruiz Picasso also used his mother's name, Picasso. I often come across cases where women are denied equal treatment for no other reason than a patriarchal mindset we have been unknowingly conditioned into following. During another such experience, I was trolled by hundreds of men in a webinar on domestic violence, as these men were against being falsely implicated in such criminal cases by women. So I researched further, and in my client interactions, I realized what lacks most is legal awareness. And since that day, one of my goals is to make legal awareness part of school curriculum. The stereotype of women as weak, passive, and dependent individuals, less rational, more emotional beings, has prevailed for long enough. And it is time to unlearn this sentiment. We can only learn from yesterday and work for a better tomorrow. And believe me, even that is not enough. As individuals, we can empower ourselves by making our own decisions, regardless of what the society says. Let me share my personal story to tell you about 2 keywords that can help you with this journey. I was in 5th grade when a picnic was planned by a family friend, which included a helicopter ride. But I refused to go for the picnic. Since some teachers from my school were going to volunteer at Missionaries of Charity, one of the ashrams run by Mother Teresa. So I asked my parents if I could accompany my teachers, And after a couple of days of my daily request, my father agreed. So my siblings went for a picnic and I went to the ashram, accompanied by my mother, a memory I still cherish. As I reflect back, I realize two things happened. My parents allowed me to have my voice and stood by me in my choice. A small incident was a step towards empowerment. And that has been my biggest asset. We must always remember that when we make a choice which is different from acceptable social norm, the choice is called rebellion. But with support of those around us, the same choice becomes empowerment. And that is how we break away from existing normal. Currently, I'm a fourth generation working mom actually. I was 24 when I had my daughter. She arrived a little early, well, right before my law exams. She was only 4 days old and I decided I cannot miss my exams. So we had to fly back to take my exam. Thanks to my husband and my ever-supporting family. So there I was, nursing a newborn, dealing with postpartum, visiting the doctors for checkup on stitches, studying law, and taking the exams. With persistence, I became a lawyer. As a working mother, in a nuclear family, I never had enough support. And I had to take my daughter to work so often because I never had anyone to leave my child with. For me, it was a struggle. And I had to work twice as hard to get on my career path. To bring forth a generation of working mothers and to help India grow from a developing country to a developed country, it is important to provide support to mothers so that they can pursue their careers. Pandemic did indeed hit working mothers the worst. Their workload tripled, but the same pandemic also created working dads who gained insights into the life of their partners. Maybe this pandemic will create working parents who are equally responsible. So recently, LinkedIn was flooded with how women need to deal with the maternity leave in their resume. Building a family should be recognized as an important step and not as a career gap. Well, it never becomes a career gap for a man. This is where equity is needed. Women need equity for equality. One size fits all does not help in empowering women. The gender pay gap is widening and women have added responsibilities in terms of family. And as a lawyer, I have noticed how new judgments set the precedent for these changes, breaking down social and cultural traditions, weaving in new moral fibers in the societal fabric. For instance, every year in India, there are cases where women are denied promotion in paramilitary forces because pregnancy renders them physically unfit and puts them in a lower medical category. The Honorable High Court of Delhi held that the pregnancy of a woman cannot be treated as a disability and disqualification. Pregnancy discrimination is abhorrent and cannot be accepted as it violates the principle of equality, the basic fundamental rights, and discriminates on grounds of gender. A lady cannot be discriminated because she exercised her right and choice to be a mother. This is where equity comes into play. On one hand, now women will be inducted in the Indian Army on permanent commission. And on the other hand, they continue to be discriminated for giving birth. In another interesting case, in United States versus Virginia, the Honorable US Supreme Court struck down male-only admission policy in Virginia Military Institute, where Justice Ginsburg observed that physical differences between men and women should not be a cause for denigration of the members of either sex, or for artificial constraints on an individual's opportunity. Gender classifications may be used to compensate women for particular economic disabilities they have suffered, to promote equal employment opportunity, to advance full development of the talent and capacities. But such classifications may not be used as they once were to create or perpetuate the legal, social, and economic inferiority of women. Now let's see that despite all these changes, seeing an empowered world where all stand equally is a far-fetched idea. It will take generations to build a world like that. A former Chief Justice of the Honorable Supreme Court of India observed that many women lawyers have declined judgeship, citing domestic responsibilities, which includes education of their children. And in India, only 11% High Court judges are women. Due to pandemic, many girls dropped out of schools worldwide, especially Africa and India. Do you know that 130 million girls were already out of school before pandemic? And 11 million girls may not go back to school after pandemic, as suggested by a report of UNESCO. Now the reasons were varied, from not having extra device for online classes, as families usually prefer to give the device to the male child first. There is also increased domestic duties, not having anyone to walk with the girl to the school as other classmates had dropped out. Reduced family income, and it was better for a girl child to work or be married off. Now the girl child in India suffer multiple marginalism, including caste and religion. Does this not show us that in absence of equity, equality is not possible? Women empowerment is a far-fetched dream, as right from childhood females are treated differently, with lesser resources and more responsibilities. The actual journey will start when we as a community understand true equality happens with equity. Equity means understanding that each person has different circumstances and allocating the exact resources needed to reach an equal outcome. That is nothing but equality. Society changes with knowledge, and legal awareness should be inclusive for all genders. And above all, equity is not taking away a man's share. It is having equal opportunity by uplifting women. I stand for women's right to remove the patriarchal cultural outlook. But what is needed is not an isolated fight. Men have to be an active stakeholder in empowering women, as it brings the whole family up. Every working woman who goes to office in turn generates employment for those at the level below her. Empowerment creates empowerment. Women and men are together creating the new wave of empowerment. We are not snatching away from men. We are just creating an equal footing for everyone. In life, we must always unlearn to learn something new. You cannot pour in a full cup. You have to let go of the old to make way for the new. We have to define our own normal. If I gave in to the normal of staying at home after giving birth to child, I would not be a lawyer. The only definition of normal is the one we choose to give it. When we decide that women can do and be everything, then that becomes normal. Normal is where you decide to stop trying, and new normal is when you push the limits. And so we come back to the same question: who am I? The answer: I'm all of those, but I'm also determined, empowered, and above all, proud. And even though I have never been on a helicopter yet, I have my own wings to fly and a voice to vocalize my choice. You have to define your normal, and to do that, constantly unlearn. Thank you.